slowly. This is just like, there it is, and you can't change it. The negative has to be right. If the negative is not right, you can't do anything.
How long does it take to make a print like that?
A print like this,
2 hours.
oh, no. Actually, while I expose, I have fluorescent tubes. It takes 2 minutes to make the exposure. It takes a lot of time to make the negatives. It takes 5 minutes to process. The preliminary work takes a long time. Now, one good thing about these prints, they don't need washing. These prints need 90 minutes of wash. Otherwise, they'll start yellowing. These print, you give them 30 minutes, it's fine. Now, just to kind of confuse the whole thing, I'll show you something more. I brought a test print with me. And this print has also a process. Actually, this process was invented in 1864, and it was abandoned in 1900. And the way to make this, you use Chinese ink, and you go to the grocery store and you buy Knox gelatin. And this is what you get. This is impervious. This is a carbon print. It'll last. If you print it on a papyrus, if the Egyptians had used carbon printing, they would still have been there. It does not. I mean, it's pure carbon. It cannot degrade.
Does it look like I transfer paper?
It has a slight relief to it. It's what you do is you make the emulsion out of Knox gelatin, make it real thick, and then you mix in the ink, then you pour it out and let it dry. And then after you put alcohol on it, and that makes it sensitive to light.
That's last forever.
It'll last forever. It's, when the process died out in 1900 because it was too cumbersome. It takes, I mean, you make emulsion one day, you expose the next day, it's a 3 or 4 day process. Now some people are really crazy, they'll make 3 color carbons. And it's like, and in 1 week you may have one thing, you're lucky. So, that's for the insane people. This is a half insane. This is okay. It's a very different. Actually, a carbon print, you can make it relief very high. If it's a very simple image, it will have this kind of look to it. But this one doesn't have very much relief. See, one thing that you're up against today, if you're a photographer making regular prints, a lot of people, I mean, if you're a photographer, you can probably tell the difference between a photographic print and an Epson print. All Epson prints are getting very, very good. In a carbon print or platinum print, they look different. People know it's different. They can tell it's different. So, pricing structure and things like that. I mean, you're making something which is one of a kind. Even if you have a digital name, every time you make one print, it'll be slightly different. I mean, your brush strokes will never be the same. There's a lot. This is actually a lot of wasted platinum here. You know, platinum is very expensive, so it's not like you mix up a tray. You take a little drop of that and a little drop of that. So you may have 20 drops, and you spread it, and then you spread it with a brush. But that's probably $5 worth of platinum in this print. Platinum gold. If you make, it took, before I could really start making any good prints, I probably made 100 bad ones. Just not just this one, but in general. I mean, I had to figure it out.
You mount your work with super glue or by tissue?
This actually is taped in with a tape.
Scotch tape.
And
Just tape?
Yeah, it's a Cairo tape. The ideal thing, if photographs like this, I'll dry mount.
Tissue?
Yeah, those are dry mount tissue.
Oh.
Yeah. And people in museums, they don't like dry mounting because they say, well, if this gets damaged, if the mount gets damaged, it's very difficult to get the mount off, get the print off. So what you can do, you can get handmade Japanese tape, Chinese tape you can do. It's made of rice. It's perfectly pure, natural pH. Cut it out and stick it down. So this is actually just loaded. Now if you touch this paper is quite thick. It doesn't buckle. I have a problem with prints that buckle if they're big, you know, especially mine. Now this print here is no good print. This is, I don't know why I brought it. And this is what happens when you dry mount. It goes crazy. There's a piece of dirt underneath, and you can see. So this, I'm going to finish. You see where it is? And before you mount it, you can't tell. And it could be just like a piece of dust. It gets in there and it's fringe ring. So you can say, well, this is a much safer way to mount it. Certainly less expensive.
这边可以。Yeah.
So it's a big piece then.
Suppose this one 1,000, but you make a mistake, half price, okay.
Now, this actually. this
Then
is
you can
shot-
only put it in Walmart.
That's it, Walmart. In a restaurant. Now, here's a silver print. There's a black print. And this is actually shot on 35 millimeter. And if you look at it, there's not much difference between the 35 and the 4x5. But again, you just kind of have to be careful with how you process your film in the film. You select this. And if you look at it, there's no. If you look at it, there's no grain. The platinum printing is a different way of printing. Silver printing, once you get in the darkroom, it's very intense. I feel it's very intense because you're doing many different things. Platinum printing, well, you have a glass of wine, you're sitting in daylight, things are good, and it's a whole different way of printing. If I was going to be corny, I would say it's like Zen. It's Zen printing. It's a different way of doing things. You relax. You can sit and talk to people while you're coding because it's daylight. It's just a yellow. It's not a. They don't have to be in the dark. So in the dark room also you stand up for 5 or 6 hours. It gets old. Whereas when you're making a platinum print, you sit down and relax. You have any questions?
When you're using a 8x10 or
Yeah.
5x7,
Yeah.
when you're tilting and shifting, how do you determine the
Okay, actually this camera is quite easy. Most cameras, you kind of have to fiddle around, figure out what you're going to do. Basically, you just have to think about the front is made to increase or decrease the focus. The back is used to determine how things are going to look, perspective-wise, or, in other words, do you want to distort the image? Do you want to have it be parallel, like if you're shooting a building? What do you want to do? So, this particular camera, everything is dialed in, and you work primarily in the back of this camera. So you can do different. I'll be happy to show it to you. Basically, if you're photographing a building, you want the back to be parallel to the building, unless you want converging lines. But it's totally up to you to decide. See, this camera can go either way. You can look at it just like you do with a regular camera, straight on. See if I turn it, you can see better. Now this is parallel to this, but if I was photographing something on that wall and I wanted to be vertical, I would turn it like this, so this becomes vertical. If I wanted to, I don't know what this lens sees, but if it sees something in the foreground and something in the background, I would turn it this way so it can hold a depth of field.
But then when it comes to exposure time-wise,
Yeah.
when the distance are different, you don't increase the distance at all?
No. Actually, on this particular camera, you focus on what's furthest away. The others are like this, and you set a little marker, and then you focus on what's closest to you, and you can read off the f-stop. You just set the f-stop. Now, one thing that's missing on this camera. Shutter. Shutter's right here. This is a film that goes in there. This is a film holder. It holds 2 sheets. And once the film is in there, and you have taken out the slide, you got to cover the lens. Now, if I was smart, I would have a lens cap for it. I don't have a lens cap for it. Because if you have a lens cap, it's very easy. You take out the slide, the lens cap is on. So this is a little cumbersome. You got to